Trust not the stories told by men, for most men are liars and fools. I heard the tale of my own destruction from the brother of my Creator. That such a tale should persist persuaded me that much else in his tale might be false. What other lies live as truth, told by the very man who would hide his crimes? For you cannot trust the testimony of he who would absolve himself of guilt. Frankenstein the noble, Frankenstein the brave, how he did suffer at the hands of his monster. What lies he spread to generate vast sympathies. Yes, all must weep for the victim Frankenstein who strove to grab at mysteries and reached too far. Though none may ever read this, I bid it fair that one true account should exist, though it be in the meanest cottage on the farthest edge of the earth. For I too am the creation of Victor's hand, shamefully left and forgotten, and described forever as destroyed. Yet no destruction did I endure. No, in boundless delight did Frankenstein, with his monster by his side, create a female form. Here were his methods perfected, his techniques refined. I was to be the pinnacle of his infernal endeavors, his second creation, the Eve to his created Adam. I was to be the culmination of his genius, the mate for his first, and mother to a people who would call him God. I woke at night to the symphony of all existence, to sound, to light, to the thousand awarenesses of the self. From nothing to existence was I wakened, a being new and wholly formed. The moon, that vast ivory orb, did seem to be the whole of light and goodness. I was born to life in its rays, and it did seem good. I beheld the face of my Creator, my Father, and in his countenance I saw the first face of man. His own gaze held what I would later know as fear, but at first I saw only joy. With halting steps did I take my first journey. I walked to the moon, which seemed so full of mystery and delight. I held out my hand to grasp it, but could not. Here my Creator came to me to guide me outside. What a universe I beheld then! Until that moment did I think the world bounded by roof and walls, but now I saw the limitless bounds of nature. The sea and the shore were my first sights, and in them I saw true beauty. To me Victor brought the first creature, he for whom I was created and intended, and I beheld for the first time the great disfigured brute. He looked on me in wonder, finding joy in what he saw. Taking my hands he spoke, but his words were sounds without comprehension to me. I sought my Creator, he whom I had first seen, but he turned me back to the creature. I wished to go to the sea then, but they took me back inside. Of great strangeness were my first days. My Creator, whose name I came to know to be Victor, and the creature seemed greatly to desire my quick advancement in speech. For hours daily did they tutor me in words. I disliked the lessons, and often sought the sea, but they held me back from its shores. I learned. This learning was a great burden, for I wished not the insect sounds of language, but they would not cease, and for many weeks tutored me in speech, such that I could not help but copy them. So did I learn the words for moon and sea, and the other boxes that hold such vast and unholdable things. After a time of some months, when they were confident that I had grasped language, Victor and the creature met and spoke, and the creature held a look of great joy. The next day they took me down to the sea that I so loved, and into my hands placed a bouquet of rough flowers from the island. Some confusion must I have shown, for at that moment did Victor come to us and speak words of promises. He bid the creature make an oath, and then I spoke the words, not knowing the reason, thinking it a lesson. At their conclusion the creature was filled with joy. He took my hand and led me up a path to a blanket in the grass on a dune. The creature bade me sit, and then he laid himself on top of me, grabbing at my skirts. Taken by fright at this sudden and strange attack, I threw him off me, my own strength being like that of his own. He came back to try again, but I stood now and backed away, fearing a fresh attack. The creature looked on me in great consternation. Seeing me hunched and guarded, he went to Victor, and the two argued on the beach. I had no notion of the reason for their argument, only my own anger at having been so rudely attacked by the creature. He was a great and ugly brute, of little kindness and great temper. His impatience and ill nature were manifest in broken things around the cottage. They were my only two companions, and yet I disliked the creature greatly. After this, the creature went back to his hiding places on the island, and I was left to the daily lessons of speech, and then reading. My great joy was still the sea, and I delighted in walking on its shores. The monster would not be content, however. Having been deprived his bride, his anger grew. He came back and attempted to tell me with sweet words that I was his and had been made for him. He told me I was his bride, though I knew not the meaning of the word. I looked on him in confusion and annoyance. Again he tried to lower me to the ground, but with greater anger than before I pushed him away. He yelled at me then, words of terrible fury, insults to my lack of beauty and goodness. He said that I had been made wrongly and was not as I should be. I had no notion of what he spoke, but I felt the sting of his insult. That night, to our great misfortune, Victor's friend Clerval came to the island. He brought gifts of liquors, and the three men did drink long into the night. Clerval knew of the creature, and had been there the day it was made. The three men gathered about the fire and drank, and the monster grew angry. He screamed at Victor that I, his female, would not be his bride, and would not come to him willingly. Victor tried to reassure him that I was but recently made, still new to this world, but the monster would not hear it. Clerval, poor unfortunate Clerval, got between the two drunk friends, and met his sad end in their conflict. I did not see the event, but knowing his goodness, he would have tried to argue with the creature, and found his end at the creature's hands. All was chaos afterwards. The creature left at a run, and Victor cried over the body of his dear friend Clerval. Victor then hastily gathered some things, and left in a boat with Clerval's body. He had left me no instruction but to stay in the cottage while he was gone. Then there was silence. Victor was gone, the creature was gone, and poor Clerval was dead. I was alone for the first time. I ate the oatcakes and tended the rough garden. I walked on the beach and watched the 1,000 changes of the sea. Weeks passed, and still they did not return. I grew concerned, but knew not what to do but stay where I was. Our neighbors came with the delivery of food and water, and I found the money Victor had left. On finding me alone, they inquired about Frankenstein, and I told them in halting words that he had gone. The good wife and her daughter, thinking me simple, began to help me with tasks in the house. I, in turn, learned to help them in their garden and in their boats. Months passed in this way, and I wondered what had become of my creator. One day I took a boat to the mainland, where I could pass little noticed if I was hooded and veiled. I searched for news of Frankenstein, and at length heard of his imprisonment for the murder of Clerval, and then his return home to Geneva. I went back in some distress. My father and creator had abandoned me on this far isle. No note or word had he sent, no tender worries about my state. I had some small money in the cottage, so my home was secure, but still I desired to hear the words from my creator. Many times did I write a letter only to tear it into pieces. Time passed, and I lived in the cottage, and I helped the neighbors, who did not look on me with fear despite my strange countenance. Finally, I resolved to go to Geneva. I left my small isle hooded and veiled, and took a ship and a coach to Geneva. There I went to the home of Victor Frankenstein. I was met by Victor's brother Ernest, and he told me what had become of Frankenstein. He told me of Victor's return to Geneva, his marriage to Elizabeth, and her untimely death. Then the death of Victor's heartbroken father, and of Victor's ravings in prison. Ernest told me that Victor had set off on a mad quest to kill the infernal beast that he blamed for his misfortunes, and that he had finally perished on a ship in the Arctic. This unhappy young man was now alone, his large family all having gone to their graves. On seeing my veiled form, he inquired if I was perhaps aware of Victor's scientific pursuits. Knowing the danger of doing so, I unveiled my face to him, and Ernest gasped in surprise at what he saw. So it is true, he said, the mad ravings of my brother. He had learned to animate life. Yes, it is true, I said. I am his creature. But in his ravings he said that you were destroyed. On hearing that I had been instead abandoned by Frankenstein on the island, Ernest was full of great kindness and curiosity, and bid me stay at his house as a sister. in addition to his family after so many sorry losses. He was a kind young man, with a strength in him of good family, but I did not wish to remain in his home. Having learned of the demise of my creator, I only wished to go back home to my island, where I might live in peace. The young man pressed some money on me that I might be comfortable, for which I was very grateful, but also saddened, as it felt like the inheritance from a father. He begged my name, and I told him I called myself Eve. He said that was too dear, and suggested that I might take the name of his family, calling myself Everina Frankenstein. He promised that I could always call on him for help if I was in need. I thanked him for his many kindnesses and bade him farewell. He looked sadly on my departure, and I considered the many losses the young man had suffered. I wondered if the creature had done as he had said and climbed his own funeral pyre, or if someday I would meet again the creature that had wed me before I knew the word for bride. Returning to my island, I took again to the patterns of sea and season. I gardened and I helped the family nearby. I had by then read all of Victor's books and all his notes about the creation of life, and I understood what was written there. As he said, the techniques were simple, and he had left abundant notes. The methods were known and the apparatus available. I began, unlike him, with a worm, unsure of my own understanding. When that animation was a success, I tried a bird. With the delicate song of my little creation, I resolved to make myself a companion, one who would be good and true, loyal and intelligent. Long did I search for the best example of his kind, and finally one fine spring day did I make my companion. He is the most excellent of dogs, and will live with me throughout the long years.